Is the Bible misogynistic? This is a really good question, and it's something that actually comes up quite a bit as the cultural landscape begins to shift. In recent years, we've seen a lot about this shift, right, into the social justice movement, this feminist movement. We've seen these cultural movements come up, and a common claim is that the Bible should be disregarded because it is supposedly misogynistic. All right, well, I want to say two things about that. We'll try to make this a short video. The first thing I want to say about that is notice the lack of logical argument present in that claim. Essentially what the person who makes the claim about the Bible being misogynistic, they're essentially saying that therefore we should not listen to the Bible. But notice that is a conclusion that does not follow from the premise. In logical terms, this is a fallacy of consequence. All right, that is, somebody does not like the consequences of the particular truth that is being discussed, and they use that as some sort of an argument against accepting the truth of the claim. All right, but that's not how logical argumentation works. If you want to argue for a view, there has to be reasons that actually affect the truth of the matter. So it could be that the Bible is misogynistic. No, I don't think it is. We're going to talk about that in a second. But if the Bible were misogynistic, that in itself would not be enough evidence. It would not pack any kind of weight behind it that should say that we should not listen to the Bible. That's the first thing. Okay, so the second thing is, now we ought to ask the question, is the Bible actually misogynistic? And no, the Bible is not misogynistic. And we did actually speak to this a little bit in a video I did not long ago. The title of that video, it's a question. It's, what is the role of women in the church? And you'll find that video right here on the YouTube channel. And I spoke to this a little bit, but let me just speak to it again, maybe a little differently, and say that the Bible's position is in no way misogynistic. And if you don't know what we've been talking about, this is essentially the idea of degrading women. Misogyny would be the idea that men are somehow better than women and therefore ought to attain some sort of socioeconomic standing that is somehow greater than that of women. The problem is that's not what the Bible teaches. As a matter of fact, the Bible teaches that we are all equal. We are all made in the image of God. We are equal in value. We are equal in intrinsic worth. There is no differentiation in that respect between any human being. It doesn't matter status, race, and you can't even bring race into the discussion, biblically speaking, because there's only one race. You go back to the book of Genesis, especially in Genesis chapters 1 through 11, we understand that there is only one human race. Differences in skin color, etc., those things are literally skin deep, okay? And I don't want to get too off track here, but that's a whole different discussion. But the reality is that there's only one race, the human race. We're all made in the image of God. We are all valued equally. There is no difference between the Jew, the Greek, the Gentile, the man, the woman, the child. We are all intrinsically valuable, made in the image of God. Now, what the person who claims that the Bible is misogynistic wants to appeal to is verses that speak to the wife's submission to the husband. But notice there's another level to that. It's that the husband must be submissive to Christ. You see, God has established an order of things. theologians talk about the fact that God has actually both feminine and masculine properties. But the way that, and so thus they further argued from that the image of God, properly speaking, is not found in any one person, because it's not strictly male or strictly female. When the Bible says that man is made in the image of God, it's talking about the whole package, because God has both the masculine qualities of being the head of the church, of being the leader who bears the weight of responsibility, but also of being the comforter and the teacher, for example. So there are both these feminine and masculine things going on. And so when a person wants to use these verses that speak to the order of things, for example, they'll point to verses that speak about how women aren't even allowed to talk in the church, etc. Well, a lot of that you have to dig a little bit deep into the cultural roots, and maybe we'll do that in a podcast episode sometime. But what I want you to understand about that is that just because God has established a certain order for things, it in no way means that that the Bible is misogynistic, or that God prefers male over female. That's just not a concept you'll find in the Bible. There is no preference given one to another. The fact of the matter is that the male is he is the leader of his family, but he's not the leader arbitrarily. He is given the leadership, but at the same time bears the burden, the weight of responsibility. If his family is not being obedient to the things of God, that is on him as the spiritual leader of his household. So understand that it's not a matter of one being better than the other. It's that women have roles that men do not, and men have roles that women do not. They're just different roles, complementary roles, and both are necessary in order to make in order to give the culmination or the manifestation of the image of God here on earth. Both are necessary. One is not better than the other, and that is what the Bible teaches.